Pull up your bank account right now, find every single payment that has anything to do with your car. The monthly payment, the insurance premium, the gas fill-ups, the oil change you just did, the registration you paid in the spring, the parking you pay every month at work or at your apartment, the toll charges, that one repair you put on a credit card 6 months ago and are still paying off. Add it all up. I'll wait. For the average American, that number is somewhere between $900 and $1,200 a month, maybe more. And the reason most people have never added it up, truly added all of it up, is because the costs are deliberately spread across different bills, different accounts, different times of the year, so that no single payment ever feels like the catastrophe it collectively is. Your car payment feels manageable. Your insurance feels separate. Gas is just gas. It doesn't feel like a car expense. It feels like a life expense. Registration is once a year, so you forget it exists. Maintenance is sporadic, so it never makes the mental budget. And parking, if you pay it, is so normalized you stopped noticing it years ago. But together they are almost certainly the single largest financial drain in your life outside of housing. And unlike housing, where you're at least building some equity or keeping a roof over your head, a car is doing something very specific with your money. It is converting it to zero. Every dollar your car consumes disappears. It does not compound. It does not appreciate. It does not generate income. It depreciates. Reliably, predictably, every single year. And fastest in the years when you've spent the most money acquiring it. Today we're going to look at the full financial picture of what car ownership actually costs, why the system around cars is specifically engineered to keep you spending more than you should, and what the people who figured this out are doing differently. Let's start with what the data actually says, because the number most people quote when they think about car costs is the monthly payment, and the monthly payment is maybe 40% of the real story. The American Automobile Association publishes an annual Your Driving Costs study. Their 2023 findings put the average annual cost of owning and operating a new vehicle at $12,182. That's $1,015 a month, every month for a single car. Break that down, and it looks like this. Finance charges on the average new car loan contribute roughly $1,700 a year. Depreciation, and the portion of the car's value that simply evaporates, averages $4,736 a year on a new vehicle. Insurance runs $1,771 annually on average nationwide, though in states like Michigan, Florida, and Louisiana, it's significantly higher. Maintenance and tires clock in around $1,264. Fuel at average consumption and 2023 prices adds another $1,968. Registration, taxes, and fees rounded out. Notice what the biggest line item is. Not the payment, not the insurance, depreciation. The car loses $4,736 in value per year on average, and you paid for all of that value when you bought it. That loss is money you spent that bought you nothing. Not transportation, not safety, not reliability, just gone. And that's the average. Truck and SUV owners, who now represent over 75% of new vehicle sales in the United States, according to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, are losing significantly more. A full-size pickup truck depreciates at $8,000 to $10,000 in its first year alone. The first year. 1 year of ownership on a truck you financed for 72 months produces a depreciation loss that equals many people's entire emergency fund. The Federal Reserve's data on household debt shows that the average new car loan balance in 2024 was $40,602. The average used car loan was $26,510. The average loan term was 69 months for new cars. That's nearly 6 years of payments on an asset that will be worth a fraction of its purchase price when the loan is paid off. And here's the number that should fundamentally change how you think about car buying. According to Edmunds, roughly 25% of new car trade-ins in 2023 were underwater, meaning the owner owed more on the loan than the car was worth. 1 in 4. These are people who went to buy a new car, discovered their current car's trade-in value didn't cover what they owed, and rolled the negative equity into the new loan. They started the new car purchase already in a hole, then kept digging. None of what I just described happened by accident. The American car ownership model is the result of decades of deliberate industry architecture. The dealerships, the lenders, the automakers, and in many parts of the country, the urban planners, all converging on a system that requires you to spend as much as possible on a vehicle as often as possible, with as much financing as possible. Walk into a dealership and watch what the salesperson focuses on, not the price of the car, the monthly payment. What can you afford per month is the first question, because it allows them to extend the loan term, raise the vehicle price, and load in add-ons while keeping the monthly number in a range that feels acceptable. Someone who can afford $600 a month doesn't know if they're buying a $28,000 car over 48 months or a $42,000 car over 72 months. The math is deliberately obscured. A 72-month loan at 7% interest on a $40,000 car costs $6,767 in interest over the life of the loan. The same car on a 48-month loan at the same rate costs $4,458 in interest. You pay $2,309 more in interest on the longer loan, plus you're underwater on the vehicle for more of its life, because the dealership convinced you to focus on $150 less per month instead of the total cost. The extended warranty business is worth billions for the same reason. The F&I office, finance and insurance, the back room you go to after you've agreed on the car, is where dealerships make a significant portion of their profit. Gap insurance, paint protection, tire and wheel packages, extended warranties, key replacement programs, all presented after you've already mentally committed to the car. All priced in ways that sound small relative to the vehicle price, all with margins that would make a pharmaceutical company blush. The average F&I gross profit per vehicle at U.S. franchise dealerships was $1,598 in 2022, according to the National Automobile Dealers Association's own data. That's profit the dealership made on products you probably didn't need, sold to you in a moment of decision fatigue, priced against the backdrop of a $40,000 purchase so that $2,000 in add-ons felt trivial. Then there's the financing itself. Dealerships often make money on the loan, not just the car. They receive what's called a dealer reserve, a portion of the interest spread between the rate the lender offers and the rate the dealer quotes you. If your credit qualifies you for 6%, but the dealer quotes 8%, the dealer pockets a portion of that 2% difference over the life of the loan. The CFPB has flagged dealer reserve practices as a source of discriminatory lending outcomes. Studies have consistently shown that minority borrowers are quoted higher rates for the same credit profiles at dealerships that use reserve markup. And zoom out even further, the infrastructure around cars. The United States spent 75 years building a physical landscape that in many metro areas makes car ownership not just convenient but functionally mandatory. Suburban sprawl, inadequate public transit, employers located in areas unreachable without a vehicle. These are policy choices, not natural phenomena. They were built partly by the auto and highway lobbying apparatus, which spent aggressively throughout the mid-20th century to shape land use policy in ways that guaranteed car dependency. The American Automobile Association doesn't just publish cost studies or ACDA. They are one of the oldest and most powerful transportation lobbying organizations in the country. The system that requires you to spend $1,000 a month on a car didn't emerge neutrally. It was built, maintained, and continuously reinforced. The $1,015 a month is painful in the present. What it does to your future is the part most people haven't calculated. Take a 28-year-old who buys a new car every 5 years, the average car replacement cycle in the U.S., and maintains roughly $600 a month in total car costs throughout their working life. That's not an extravagant car owner, that's a completely ordinary one. $600 a month for 37 years, from age 28 to 65. Invested instead at a 7% annual return produces $1,788,000. Not $600 a month in car payments invested. $600 a month in total car cost reduction invested. The person who finds a way to drive on $400 a month instead of $1,000 a month and invests the $600 difference retires with $1.78 million they wouldn't otherwise have had. There's a concept in economics called opportunity cost. the value of the best alternative use of a resource. When you spend $12,000 a year on a car, the opportunity cost isn't just $12,000, it's what $12,000 per year compounding for decades would have become. At 7% over 30 years, $12,000 per year is $1,132,000. You didn't just spend $12,000, you spent the future version of $1.1 million. People understand this concept when it comes to coffee. If you cut your daily latte, you'd save $38,000 over 10 years. Every personal finance article since 2005 has made this argument, but nobody applies it to the $40,000 depreciating liability sitting in the driveway because the car is normalized in a way the latte is not. The math works the same way. The scale is just dramatically higher. J.D. Power's 2023 Vehicle Dependability Study found that 3-year-old used vehicles now match or exceed the reliability scores of new vehicles in most categories. The quality gap between a new car and a well-maintained 3-year-old car has effectively closed, partly due to manufacturing improvements, partly due to better materials. What hasn't closed is the price gap. A 3-year-old version of a car that costs $40,000 new typically sells for $25,000 to $28,000. After the steepest depreciation has already occurred, you get 90% of the reliability for 65% of the price. The person who absorbed that depreciation for you is the original buyer. Here's where this gets uncomfortable because it requires looking at car ownership as a financial decision rather than a lifestyle one. The typical justification for an expensive car runs through a familiar script. Safety features, reliability, resale value, you spend a lot of time in it, you need it for work, you deserve something nice. These are not entirely irrational arguments, but watch how quickly the goalposts move. The safety features that matter, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, are standard or available on vehicles priced under $25,000. Reliability, as just established, doesn't require new. Resale value is circular. You're paying more to recover more of a larger initial loss. Spending a lot of time in it is used to justify $70,000 trucks by people whose actual commute is 22 minutes each way. And I deserve something nice is the most honest version of the argument, but it's a lifestyle argument, not a financial one. The median household income in the United States in 2023 was $80,610. Financial advisors and car buying experts, including Dave Ramsey's own guidelines, Kelley Blue Book, and NerdWallet, consistently recommend that total vehicle cost should not exceed 15 to 20% of annual take-home pay. On an $80,000 income with roughly $62,000 in take-home, that's a vehicle budget of $9,300 to $12,400 as a total purchase price, not per year in payments. The average new car transaction price in 2023 was $48,451 according to Kelley Blue Book. That is not a car purchased by someone following the 15 to 20% rule. That is nearly 2/3 of the median household's annual gross income spent on a single depreciating asset. What does the car someone buys actually say about their financial position? Not what most people assume. Millionaire Next Door research by Thomas Stanley, based on surveys of over 1,000 American millionaires, found that the most common vehicle driven by U.S. millionaires was not a luxury car. It was a Toyota. The most popular single model was the Ford F-150 used. The people who had actually accumulated wealth were driving vehicles chosen for value, not status. The people driving status vehicles were, in many cases, the ones with the income and the net worth that didn't match. There's one dimension of car costs that almost never makes it into the conversation, and it multiplies everything I've described: insurance. The average annual auto insurance premium in the United States hit $2,150 in 2024, according to Bankrate's annual rate analysis. In some states, it's dramatically higher. Michigan, which has a unique no-fault insurance system, saw average annual premiums exceeding $4,000 for full coverage. Florida's average crossed $3,100. Louisiana, $3,200. But the average hides what's happening at the vehicle level. Insurance premiums are tied directly to the vehicle's value and repair cost. A $50,000 truck costs significantly more to insure than a $20,000 sedan, and significantly more to repair when something goes wrong, because the parts and labor rates for trucks and luxury vehicles are not comparable to economy cars. The Insurance Information Institute found that the average auto insurance claim for a collision is $5,992. For a luxury or high-value vehicle, that number is substantially higher. The car that costs more to buy costs more to insure, more to repair, more to maintain, and produces larger depreciation losses. On every single dimension, the expensive car amplifies the financial damage. And then there's the credit score connection that most people have never considered. Auto loan debt is installment debt. It affects credit utilization in a specific way. But the more significant connection is this. People who are carrying large car payments have less financial flexibility to pay down credit cards, build emergency funds, or make consistent investment contributions. The car payment crowds out the behaviors that build credit and wealth simultaneously. The $700 car payment isn't just $700. It's the investment contribution that didn't happen, the credit card balance that didn't get paid down, the emergency fund that stayed underfunded until the next unexpected expense turned it into debt. So what does a fundamentally different approach to car ownership look like? Not a radical one, not sell everything and ride a bike. A financially intelligent one. The single most impactful move available to most people is buying used and paying cash, or financing as little as possible for as short a term as possible. A 2 to 4-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle from a manufacturer known for reliability, Toyota, Honda, Mazda, purchased below the 20% of take-home income threshold with a loan term of 36 months maximum fundamentally changes the financial picture. On that $40,000 new car versus a comparable 3-year-old used version at $26,000. The purchase price difference is $14,000. The depreciation profile is dramatically different. You're starting at the plateau of the depreciation curve rather than the cliff. Insurance is lower. If you finance $26,000 over 36 months at 7% instead of $40,000 over 72 months at 7%, the monthly payment is actually similar. But you pay it off in 3 years instead of 6, pay $2,900 in total interest instead of $6,700, and own the vehicle free and clear 3 years sooner. The 3 years of no car payment after a 36-month loan? At $500 a month invested for 36 months at 7%, that's $19,700 built before the next car purchase. Use that toward the next car and the loan you need gets smaller. The cycle starts to invert. Instead of a perpetual car payment that never ends because you roll into the next loan the moment the old one completes, you're building toward a vehicle ownership model where the car costs you less and less over time. The people who have genuinely escaped the car poverty trap, and it is a form of poverty, a consumption drain that prevents wealth building, almost universally describe the same transition. They bought the right size car for their financial reality, not their aspirational identity. They drove it longer than average, they maintained it properly so they could drive it longer. And they treated every period of no car payment as an investment contribution, not as freed up money for lifestyle inflation. Consumer Reports consistently finds that keeping a reliable vehicle for 10 to 15 years rather than cycling every 5 saves $200,000 to $300,000 over a lifetime when accounting for down payments, transaction costs, financing, and depreciation cycles. $200,000 to $300,000. Not from earning more, not from investing brilliantly. From driving a paid-off Honda for an extra 5 years. That's not a sacrifice, that's a choice. And it is one of the few financial choices available to middle-income earners that has a 6-figure impact within a single decade. Before the closing, one more thing worth naming directly. Cars are not purely rational purchases. Nobody needs reminding that cars carry identity, status, emotion, aspiration. The first car was freedom. The car you drive feels like a statement about who you are. Upgrading it feels like a reward for working hard. These are real psychological dynamics, not weaknesses to be ashamed of, just dynamics to be aware of. The automotive industry spends approximately $35 billion a year on advertising in the United States. That advertising is not primarily informational, it is emotional. It connects specific vehicles to specific feelings. Freedom, success, adventure, masculinity, sophistication. You are not choosing a transportation appliance. You're being invited to buy a version of yourself. Understanding that doesn't make you immune to it, but it creates enough distance between the feeling and the financial decision to ask the question, is the version of myself I'm buying at $1,015 a month the version that will actually exist in 20 years? Or is the version that exists in 20 years the one who invested those $1,015 every month instead? The car you drive matters far less to the person you become than what you do with the money you don't spend on it. Here's the summary of everything we covered as plainly as I can say it. The average American spends over $12,000 a year on their car. Most of them have never added up that number. The industry is specifically engineered. The financing, the dealership model, the F&I office, the advertising, to keep that number as high as possible and as invisible as possible. The opportunity cost of that spending over a working lifetime runs well past $1 million for most people. The depreciation on new vehicles is the biggest line item and the most avoidable. The loan terms have stretched to 6 and 7 years to obscure the true cost. 1 in 4 trade-ins are underwater. The counterplay isn't complicated. Buy used, buy reliable, buy within 20% of your take-home income, finance for 36 months maximum, drive it until the wheels come off, and invest the difference. That's it. That's the whole strategy. It doesn't require a spreadsheet, a financial advisor, or a personality transplant. It requires treating your car like the transportation appliance it actually is, rather than the identity statement the industry has spent $35 billion this year convincing you it should be. The car sitting in your driveway right now is either working for your future or against it. Run the actual numbers with all the costs included, and you'll know which one it is.